There's a specific kind of stillness that comes right before loss. Not the peaceful kind. The kind where breathing becomes a choice instead of a reflex. I've seen it in hospital rooms, in goodbye embraces at airport gates, in the eyes of shelter dogs who've stopped believing in tomorrow. That Tuesday morning at Terminal C, I watched a tan and white dog named Luna go perfectly, dangerously still while a woman in a wheelchair sobbed, and an airline supervisor's finger pointed like a verdict. Luna wasn't misbehaving. She was disappearing. And I knew. The way you know a glass is about to shatter before it hits the ground. That what happened in the next 10 minutes would decide whether this dog ever felt safe again. I wasn't supposed to be at the airport that morning. My Tuesday volunteer shift at Riverside Regional Shelter had been canceled due to a plumbing emergency, which meant I had 3 unexpected hours before my afternoon client meetings. I'd grabbed my laptop, thinking I'd work from the airport cafe while waiting for a colleague's delayed flight. I didn't expect to witness the kind of moment that reminds you why some people should never give up on broken things. The terminal was typical for 9 a.m. on a weekday. Business people speed walking with roller bags, families corralling children, that constant hum of announcements and impatience. I'd just ordered my second coffee when I heard the voice. Sharp. Institutional. The kind of voice that's practiced saying no. Ma'am, I've explained this twice already. The dog doesn't meet the criteria for in-cabin transport. You'll need to make other arrangements. I turned toward the commotion like everyone else does when conflict punctures the bubble of public anonymity. That's when I saw her. The woman was in a wheelchair, probably late 40s, with that particular exhaustion that comes from fighting systems designed to say no efficiently. Her hands trembled as they gripped a tan and white dog, some kind of retriever mix, maybe 40 pounds, wearing a blue vest that read "Adopt Me" in bold white letters. But it was the dog's face that stopped me cold. Luna. I'd learned her name later. Wasn't barking. Wasn't struggling. Wasn't doing any of the things nervous dogs do in chaotic environments. She was doing something far more dangerous. She'd gone absolutely still. Her body pressed into the woman's chest, but not in the way anxious dogs seek comfort. This was different. This was the physical language of a creature who'd learned that being perfect didn't save you. But being invisible sometimes delayed the inevitable. I've seen that look before. In the back kennels at the shelter, in the dogs who've been returned 3 times, in the seniors who watch younger dogs get adopted week after week. It's the look that comes right before surrender. The airline supervisor, a woman in her 30s, name tag reading Supervisor J. Martinez, stood with her tablet angled like a shield, reciting policy with the emotional inflection of a GPS announcement. The animal is classified as a shelter transfer, not a service animal or emotional support animal. Per Airline Regulation 4.7.2, shelter animals must be transported as checked baggage or cargo. You were informed of this when you booked. She's not cargo, the woman Elena I'd learned said, voice cracking. She's 8 years old. She has arthritis. The shelter vet said the cargo hold could. Her voice broke entirely. Please. I've already lost. She didn't finish the sentence. Didn't need to. I've heard that pause before. It's the pause that holds a name, a date, a before that can't be returned to. Luna's ears flattened further against her skull. Her breathing had gone shallow, the kind of hyperventilation dogs do when they're trying not to exist too loudly. The supervisor's expression didn't change. I understand this is frustrating, but policies exist for liability reasons. If you can't arrange cargo transport, you'll need to rebook or forfeit the flight. The word forfeit hung in the recycled airport air like a sentencing. Elena made a sound, not quite a sob, more like the noise humans make when they're trying to hold themselves together in public and failing. Her grip on Luna tightened, and Luna did something that made my chest physically hurt. She closed her eyes. Not the slow, sleepy closing of a relaxed dog. The tight, Brace closing of a creature preparing for impact. I've volunteered at Riverside for 6 years. I've seen dogs with bite histories, dogs with medical trauma, dogs who've been starved and beaten. But I've never seen anything quite as heartbreaking as a dog who's learned that hoping is what hurts most. The crowd around the gate had started to notice. Phones lowered. Conversations paused. A businessman in a suit glanced over, frowned, then looked away quickly. The universal body language of, "I see this is painful, but it's not my problem." But an older couple a few seats down didn't look away. The woman whispered something to her husband. His jaw tightened. They both stared at Luna with the specific recognition of people who'd lost a dog and never quite recovered. The supervisor was already turning away. "If there's nothing else." "Wait." My voice surprised me. I stood, coffee in hand, no plan whatsoever. "Can I ask what specific regulation she's violating?" Supervisor Martinez turned, clearly annoyed to have a third party enter the negotiation. "Are you traveling with this passenger?" "No." I walked closer, keeping my voice calm. "But I work with shelter animals. And that dog isn't distressed. She's dissociating. There's a difference." Elena's eyes met mine, desperate, grateful, barely holding on. Luna didn't open her eyes. Didn't react to my voice at all. Because dogs who've been disappointed enough times learn not to hear hope anymore. Even when it's standing 3 feet away. Before I tell you what happened next, if stories about second chances and the resilience of forgotten dogs matter to you, subscribe to this channel. Every week, I share real stories of animals who were overlooked until someone decided they were worth fighting for. Click that subscribe button, because Luna's story is just beginning, and you won't want to miss how this ends. Luna hadn't always been quiet. According to her intake paperwork, which I'd seen dozens of times in my volunteer work, she'd arrived at Riverside Regional Shelter 11 weeks earlier on a Friday afternoon. Picked up by animal control after a concerned neighbor reported a dog wandering alone for multiple days near a foreclosed property on the east side. No collar. No chip. No one came looking. The shelter staff named her Luna because she'd been found at night, circling the same empty house like she was waiting for someone to come home. She wasn't aggressive or fearful during intake. Just confused. The kind of confusion that sits in an animal's eyes when their entire world has been erased, and they don't understand why. Initial assessment. Friendly, house-trained, approximately 7 to 8 years old, Retriever/Terrier mix, 38 pounds, mild arthritis in rear hips, no bite history. Prognosis. Highly adoptable. The first week, Luna did all the things that get dogs noticed. She wagged when people approached. Pressed her nose through the kennel bars. Made eye contact. Played gently with the tennis ball the staff gave her. 12 families looked at her that week. None put in applications. Too old. Too plain. Too calm. Not a puppy. Not a trendy breed. Just a middle-aged dog with kind eyes and a body that had clearly carried puppies at some point in her past. By week 3, Luna's behavior started to shift. The wagging slowed. The eye contact became glancing instead of sustained. She stopped bringing the tennis ball to the front of the kennel. Started spending more time in the back corner, on the thin mat that smelled like disinfectant, and 100 other dogs who'd waited before her. This is the part people don't understand about shelter dogs. It's not that they're broken or damaged. It's that they're smart. They learn patterns faster than we give them credit for. And the pattern Luna learned was this. Wanting something badly doesn't make it happen. Being perfect doesn't make you chosen. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for yourself is stop hoping. By week 8, Luna had stopped eating her breakfast with enthusiasm. She'd pick at the kibble eventually, but that hungry, grateful gulping that dogs do when they feel safe? Gone. The shelter staff started putting calming supplements in her food, not because she was anxious in the clinical sense, but because she'd become what rescue workers call shut down. That psychological state where a dog retreats so far inward that they become functionally invisible. Quiet dogs get overlooked. Overlooked dogs stay longer. Dogs who stay longer shut down further. It's a cycle that breaks hearts and fills graves. Elena had seen Luna's photo on the shelter's website 3 weeks before the airport incident. She'd been scrolling adoption listings the way people do when they're not quite ready, but not quite able to stop themselves either. Luna's face wasn't the first one that caught her attention. There were younger dogs, fluffier dogs, dogs with more dynamic photos. But something about Luna's eyes made Elena pause. They weren't sad exactly. They resigned. The look of someone who'd already made peace with not being picked. Elena knew that look. She'd seen it in her own mirror 2 years earlier, after the car accident that had taken her mobility and her husband in the same night. She'd told herself she was just inquiring. Just gathering information. Fostering maybe. Not adopting. Adopting meant permanence. And permanence felt like a promise she wasn't sure she could keep anymore. But then she'd driven to the shelter, her first solo trip further than the grocery store since the accident, and met Luna in the small visitation yard. Luna hadn't jumped or barked or performed. She'd walked over slowly, sniffed Elena's hand, then sat down beside the wheelchair and leaned gently against the wheel. Just existed there. Present but not demanding. Calm but not indifferent. The shelter coordinator had explained Luna's history. The arthritis. The age. The fact that senior dogs were the hardest to place, especially ones without a compelling story. She's a great dog, the coordinator had said. She just doesn't know how to sell herself anymore. Elena had filled out the adoption application that afternoon. But there was a problem. Elena lived in Oregon. The shelter was in Nevada. Interstate transport required specific protocols, specific paperwork as she was learning in brutal detail at this airport gate, airline approvals. The shelter's rescue coordinator had assured her it was manageable. Luna would fly as an adoption transfer, which technically fell under a different category than pet transport. The airline had initially approved it when Elena booked. Until they didn't. Until a supervisor looked at the paperwork more closely and decided that adoption transfer wasn't clear enough, that Luna needed to be reclassified, that rules existed for a reason. And now Elena was sobbing in a wheelchair, holding a dog who'd learned not to hope, while strangers watched and policy manuals overruled mercy. Luna kept her eyes closed. Because in her experience, when humans started crying, the endings came next. Elena hadn't planned to love another dog. After the accident, after Michael died and her legs stopped working and the life they'd built together became a collection of past tense verbs, she'd promised herself she was done with things that could be taken away. They'd had a dog before. Copper, a golden retriever they'd adopted as a puppy when they'd first bought the house. He'd been Michael's shadow, sleeping on his side of the bed, waiting by the door every evening at 5:47 when Michael's truck would pull into the driveway. When Michael didn't come home, Copper waited anyway. For weeks, that dog sat by the front window, ears perking at every engine sound, hope renewing and breaking with each wrong vehicle that passed. Elena couldn't bear it. Couldn't bear watching another creature learn that waiting doesn't always bring people back. Her sister had taken Copper. It was the right choice. Copper needed space to run, needed someone who could walk him, needed a household that wasn't drowning. Elena told herself she felt relieved, told herself she'd done the compassionate thing. But late at night, in the too quiet house, she felt like she'd failed one more thing she loved. That was 18 months ago. For the first year, Elena focused on survival logistics, physical therapy, learning how to shower without standing, relearning how to drive with hand controls, applying for disability, selling the 2-story house because stairs were no longer a neutral fact of architecture. The grief came in waves, the kind therapists warn you about but can't actually prepare you for. Some days she was fine, functional. Other days she sat in her parked car outside the grocery store and couldn't remember why she'd driven there. Her therapist said she was managing well. Her friends said she was so strong. Her sister said she should start thinking about what comes next. Nobody said what Elena actually felt. That she was terrified of wanting anything again because wanting led to having, and having led to the unbearable moment when it all got taken away. But algorithms don't care about fear. 6 months ago, a sponsored ad appeared in Elena's social media feed. Senior dogs need homes too. She'd scrolled past it, then scrolled back, clicked. She told herself she was just looking, just curious. The way you might look at travel destinations you'll never visit or recipes you'll never cook. The shelter's website organized dogs by age, size, temperament. Elena filtered by senior, then low energy, then good with beginners. Luna's profile appeared on page 3. Luna, 7 to 8 years old, 38 pounds, spayed female, calm, house-trained, good with kids, gentle temperament. Prefers quiet environments. Has mild arthritis, managed with joint supplements. Overlooked due to age. Deserves a soft place to land. The photo showed Luna sitting in a kennel, looking directly at the camera with an expression that wasn't quite sad, but wasn't quite hopeful either. Just present. Enduring. Elena had stared at that photo for 20 minutes. Then she closed the browser and didn't look again for 3 days. But she couldn't stop thinking about that face. About the phrase overlooked due to age. About what it meant to deserve a soft place to land but not receive one. The second time she looked, she read the full profile. Luna had been at the shelter for 9 weeks. Her adoption fee had been reduced twice. The notes mentioned that she would thrive in a calm, adult-only home with someone who understands that senior dogs need patience. Elena had laughed, a bitter, knowing sound, because someone who understands that patience is required was perhaps the most accurate description of her life she'd ever read. That weekend, she'd driven to the shelter. She told herself it was just to meet Luna, just to see if there was any connection. Foster first, maybe. Test it out. No commitment. But when Luna had walked over in that visitation yard, slowly, carefully, and leaned against Elena's wheelchair without asking for anything in return, just offering presents, Elena had felt something crack open inside her chest. Not the sharp crack of breaking, the slow crack of thawing. She'd run her hand over Luna's head, felt the dog's weight settle against her leg, and realized she'd been holding her breath for 18 months. She's perfect, Elena had whispered. The shelter coordinator smiled. She is. But I have to be honest with you. Senior dogs with medical needs are hard to place. If you're seriously considering her, we should move quickly. Her time here is limited. Elena understood what limited meant. She'd worked in veterinary offices before the accident. She knew how shelters operated, knew the brutal math of kennel space versus resources. She'd filled out the application before she could talk herself out of it. The interstate transport logistics had seemed manageable at first. The airline's website listed clear procedures for adoption transfers. Elena booked the flight, paid the fees, got the required veterinary health certificate, even purchased a TSA-approved soft-sided carrier that would fit under the seat. Then 2 days before the flight, she'd received an email asking for additional documentation regarding the animal's transport classification. She'd called the airline, been transferred 4 times, finally spoke to someone who said everything looked fine. Fine had lasted until this morning, until Supervisor Martinez decided it wasn't fine at all. And now Elena was clutching a dog who'd already given up once, trying not to give up herself, while passengers pretended not to watch a woman fall apart in public. The thing Elena couldn't explain to the supervisor, the thing she barely wanted to admit to herself, was that this wasn't just about Luna anymore. It was about whether wanting something badly enough could actually make it stay. Whether love was worth the risk of loss. Whether people like her, who'd had everything taken, were allowed to reach for something again. In the pocket of her jacket was a receipt from 3 days ago. One memory foam orthopedic dog bed, size medium, designed for dogs with joint pain. $89.99. In her suitcase was a pill organizer she'd already filled with glucosamine supplements and the arthritis medication Luna's vet had prescribed. In her phone was a saved screenshot of a local vet clinic in Portland, their hours highlighted, a reminder set for Luna's first checkup. She hadn't been fostering. She'd been preparing to keep her. And now a policy was about to decide if any of that mattered. Supervisor Martinez wasn't cruel. That's the thing people don't understand about institutional power. It doesn't require cruelty. It just requires compliance. She'd worked for the airline for 11 years. Started as a gate agent. Worked her way to supervisor. Knew every policy code by memory. She'd been trained to see passengers not as individuals, but as risk calculations, liability concerns, regulatory compliance. The dog in front of her wasn't a living thing with arthritis and abandonment trauma. It was non-compliant cargo that didn't meet Section 4.7.2 requirements. "Ma'am," Martinez said, her voice softening slightly, the way customer service professionals do when they're about to deliver bad news with kindness, which somehow makes it worse. "I understand you're upset. But these policies exist to protect both passengers and animals. The cargo hold is temperature-controlled, pressurized." "She's not going in cargo," Elena interrupted, voice shaking. "You don't understand. She's been in a concrete kennel for 3 months. She's terrified of enclosed spaces," the vet specifically said. "Then perhaps this flight isn't the right option." Martinez's tone remained professionally neutral. "I can have an agent help you rebook, or you can explore ground transport alternatives." "I don't have time for alternatives." Elena's voice cracked. "The shelter gave me a 3-day window for transport. If I don't bring her home today, she goes back into the system, and senior dogs don't." She stopped, swallowed. "They don't get second chances." I watched Luna during this exchange. Her eyes were still closed, body rigid against Elena's chest. But her breathing had changed, faster, shallower, the kind of hyperventilation that precedes panic attacks in humans and shutdown responses in dogs. "I've worked with trauma dogs," I said, keeping my voice level. "What you're seeing right now isn't a calm animal. This is a dissociative response. If you force her into cargo, you're not just violating common sense. You're re-traumatizing a vulnerable animal." Martinez's jaw tightened. "And if I allow exceptions based on emotional appeals, I'm violating federal transportation regulations and exposing this airline to liability." "So liability matters more than life," I said quietly. "Liability protects life." Martinez straightened. "These regulations exist because animals have been injured in improper transport situations. I'm not the villain here. I'm following the rules designed to prevent harm." She wasn't wrong. That's the insidious thing about systems. They're often built with good intentions that calcify into rigid structures that can't account for context. But she also wasn't right. "What's the specific code she's violating?" I asked. Martinez pulled up her tablet. Section 4.7.2 states that animals being transported as adoption transfers must be accompanied by verified documentation from a registered 501(c)(3) rescue organization with federal transport clearance. The shelter she's coming from is county-operated, not a registered nonprofit, which means this transfer doesn't qualify for in-cabin exceptions. Elena made a sound like she'd been punched. "That's not what they told me when I booked," she whispered. "They said adoption transfers were approved. I paid the fee. I have the confirmation. I understand there was miscommunication." Martinez's expression remained unmoved. But the initial approval was made in error. We're correcting it now. Correcting it. Elena repeated the phrase like it was in a foreign language. You're correcting a mistake by sending a traumatized dog into a cargo hold alone. And you think that's the responsible choice? I think it's the legal choice. A gate agent nearby, an older woman with gray hair pulled back in a bun, name tag reading Susan Chun, glanced over. She'd been checking boarding passes, but her hands had slowed. She was listening. The businessman in the suit had started recording on his phone. Not obviously, but I could see the screen angle, the way his thumb hovered over the red button. The older couple I'd noticed earlier stood up. The woman walked closer, not invasive, just present. "Excuse me," she said softly. "I don't mean to intrude, but is there really no way to let this woman bring her dog on board?" Martinez turned, clearly uncomfortable with the growing audience. "This is a private matter between the airline and the passenger." "It stopped being private when you started raising your voice," the woman said, not unkindly. "My husband and I lost our dog last winter. 15 years we had him. And watching this..." Her voice wavered. "It just seems unnecessarily cruel." "I'm not being cruel," Martinez said, defensive now. "I'm enforcing policy." "Sometimes those are the same thing," the woman's husband added. More passengers had stopped. A flight attendant walking by slowed, frowned, kept walking but glanced back twice. Elena was openly crying now, the kind of crying that comes when you've held everything together for so long that one more thing, one more no, one more closed door, becomes the thing that finally breaks you. And Luna went completely limp in her arms. Not relaxed. The opposite. The kind of limpness that happens when a living thing stops fighting. Because fighting has never worked before. I stepped closer. "Can I?" I gestured toward Luna. Elena nodded, not trusting her voice. I placed my hand gently on Luna's side. Her heartbeat was rapid, fluttering like a trapped bird. Her muscles were locked. This wasn't a calm dog. This was a dog in crisis, except her crisis looked like obedience, which is why it was so easy to miss. "She's shutting down," I said to Martinez. "This isn't compliance. This is a trauma response." "I'm not a veterinarian," Martinez replied. "I can't make medical assessments based on." "Then call one," I said. "You have veterinary consultants for cargo transport, don't you? Call them. Ask them what happens to an arthritic senior dog with abandonment trauma when you put her in a dark cargo hold alone for 3 hours." Martinez hesitated. For the first time, her professional mask slipped. Just for a second. A flicker of doubt. "The hold is pressurized," she repeated, but her voice had lost its certainty. "Pressurized doesn't mean safe," I said. "And legal doesn't always mean right." The crowd had grown. 10 people now, maybe 12, all standing in that tense silence that happens when strangers collectively witness something uncomfortable and have to decide whether to intervene or look away. Most people look away. But Susan Chun, the gate agent, didn't. She walked over, tablet in hand, and said something that changed everything. "If the dog isn't cargo, then who is she?" Martinez blinked. "What? You keep saying she doesn't qualify as a service animal or emotional support animal." "But..." Susan glanced at Luna, at Elena, at the blue vest that read "Adopt Me." "What if she's a medical companion animal? Someone recovering from trauma, with a newly adopted animal for psychological support? We have allowances for that." Martinez's eyes narrowed. "That would require documentation we don't have." "It would require documentation we could obtain," Susan corrected. "If you're willing to wait 15 minutes while this passenger contacts her therapist." It was a lifeline. A bureaucratic loophole. A technicality disguised as mercy. Elena's head snapped up. I do have a therapist." I have her number. Then make the call, Susan said simply. Martinez looked between them, clearly torn between the rules she knew and the human moment she couldn't quite ignore. This sets a precedent, she said quietly. Good, Susan replied. Maybe it's a precedent worth setting. The silence stretched. Luna's eyes were still closed, but her heartbeat, under my palm, began to slow. Just slightly. The 15-minute wait felt like hours. Elena called her therapist, Dr. Sarah Kwan, who she'd been seeing weekly since the accident. The call went to voicemail. Elena left a message that was half explanation, half plea, her voice breaking over words like documentation and medical necessity and please. Then we waited. The gate area had taken on that strange energy that forms around public conflict. Some people pretended nothing was happening. Others stared openly. A few whispered to companions. The businessman was still recording. A teenager nearby had started a TikTok live stream. Phone angled to capture Elena and Luna without being obvious about it. Susan Chun stayed close, running interference when other passengers approached with boarding questions. Martinez stood several feet away, arms crossed, tablet clutched to her chest like armor, clearly uncomfortable with the delay, but unwilling to force the issue while witnesses watched. I stayed next to Elena's wheelchair. And Luna stayed perfectly, devastatingly still. She's not even shaking anymore, Elena whispered. Is that good? I didn't want to answer honestly. The shaking had stopped because Luna had stopped fighting. Her body had given up trying to process the stress and had simply turned off. I've seen this in end-stage shelter dogs. The ones who've been there so long they stop reacting to sounds, to people, to food, to everything. They're not depressed in the human sense. They're dissociated, psychologically absent, because presence hurts too much. She'll come back, I said, hoping it was true. Elena's phone rang. She grabbed it so fast she nearly dropped it. Dr. Kwan? Yes, I'm at the airport. Her voice cracked. They won't let me bring her on board. They need documentation saying that I need her for. I couldn't hear the other side of the conversation, but I watched Elena's face cycle through hope, relief, then bureaucratic frustration. 48 hours? But Elena closed her eyes. No, I understand. Professional liability. Of course. She looked at Martinez. My therapist can provide documentation, but it needs to be reviewed by her supervising psychiatrist. She can have it by Thursday. Your flight boards in 40 minutes, Martinez said. I know. The impasse settled over us again like fog. Susan Chin pulled out her own phone, stepped away, made a call. I couldn't hear who she was talking to, but her voice had that particular cadence of someone asking a favor from a superior. Meanwhile, Luna had started a new behavior that made my chest physically ache. She was holding her breath. Not constantly. Every 30 seconds or so, she'd take a shallow inhale, hold it for a count of 5, then release it slowly. It's a self-soothing behavior some traumatized dogs develop. A way of trying to control their environment when everything else feels uncontrollable. Luna, Elena whispered, stroking the dog's head. It's okay. I've got you. I'm not leaving you. Luna didn't respond. Didn't lean into the touch. Didn't pull away. Just accepted it as one more thing happening to her that she had no power to change. The older couple who'd spoken earlier approached hesitantly. The woman was carrying something. A small fleece blanket, the kind airlines give out in first class. I thought. She offered it to Elena. She looks cold. Luna wasn't cold. The terminal was climate controlled. But the gesture wasn't really about temperature. It was about witnessing suffering and needing to do something, anything, even if it was small. Elena took the blanket with a trembling hand. Thank you. The woman's eyes were wet. We had to put our dog down 3 months ago. Kidney failure. He was 14. She touched Luna's head gently, The way you touch something fragile. This girl looks like she's been through enough. Her husband added quietly, some things are more important than rules. Martinez shifted uncomfortably. She wasn't unmoved, I could see that now. Her jaw was tight, her posture defensive. She was trapped between the system she represented and the human moment she couldn't fully ignore. Susan Chen returned. I spoke to the regional supervisor, she said to Martinez. He's authorized a provisional clearance. Martinez's head snapped up. On what grounds? Humanitarian discretion. Susan's voice was calm but firm. It's in the manual, section 12.4. Allows for supervisor override in cases involving medical emergencies, disability accommodation, or extraordinary circumstances. This qualifies. That section is for passengers, not animals. The passenger has a documented disability and is traveling with a newly adopted animal intended for companionship during recovery. That puts it in a gray area. Gray areas allow for judgment calls. Susan looked directly at Martinez. And my judgment is that making this woman choose between her flight and this dog's safety is unnecessary harm. The words hung there. This is irregular, Martinez said quietly. Yes, Susan agreed. But not every situation fits the regular rules. I watched Martinez's face as she made the decision. I don't think she wanted to be the villain in this story. I think she wanted to do her job correctly, to follow the procedures she'd been trained to follow, to avoid the kind of gray areas that create complications. But she was also human. And humans, when confronted with suffering they have the power to alleviate, have a choice. She looked at her tablet. I looked at Luna. Looked at Elena's tear-streaked face. Fine, she said finally. The dog can fly in cabin. But you need to sign a liability waiver stating that you assume all responsibility for her behavior during the flight. Elena's sob was part relief, part disbelief. Yes. Anything. I'll sign whatever. And if she becomes disruptive, Martinez added, the flight crew has the authority to. She won't, I interrupted. She's not a disruptive dog. She's a traumatized dog. There's a difference. Martinez nodded once curtly. The gate agent will process the paperwork. Then she walked away, back straight, tablet clutched tight, leaving before anyone could thank her or make her decision more complicated than it already felt. The small crowd that had gathered began to disperse. The businessman stopped recording. The teenager ended her live stream. The older couple smiled, squeezed Elena's shoulder, and returned to their seats. Susan Chen pulled out the paperwork. And Luna? Luna opened her eyes. Not wide. Not suddenly. Just a slow, cautious unfurling. Like someone waking from anesthesia and testing whether the world had changed while they were gone. She looked at Elena. Then at me. Then around the terminal. As if cataloging where she was, what was happening, whether this was another temporary stay or something else. Elena made a sound, half laugh, half sob, and buried her face in Luna's neck. We're going home, she whispered. You're coming home. Luna didn't wag her tail, didn't lick Elena's face, didn't do any of the joyful dog things people expect in moments like this. But she leaned, just slightly, just enough to shift her weight from neutral to present. It was the smallest acknowledgement, the tiniest shift from survival mode to something that might, eventually, carefully, become trust. I exhaled a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. She needs a minute, I said to Elena. Her nervous system's been in overdrive. Let her come down slowly. Elena nodded, still crying, but the tears had changed from desperation to relief. Susan Chen handed over the tablet. Sign here. And here. Initial here. Elena signed without reading, hands still shaking. Do you have a carrier for her? Susan asked. Yes. In my bag. Elena gestured to the soft-sided carrier tucked beneath her wheelchair. The shelter said she'd been crate trained, but I didn't want to use it unless. Smart, I said. Give her a few more minutes in your arms, then transition her slowly. Let her investigate the carrier, don't force her in. We had 20 minutes before boarding. Elena unzipped the carrier, set it on the floor next to her wheelchair. It was high quality, mesh sides for visibility, memory foam bottom. The kind of carrier that costs more than budget allows but less than peace of mind requires. Luna watched the carrier with that same cautious stillness. It's okay, Elena murmured. You can look. Slowly, so slowly it was painful to watch, Luna shifted in Elena's arms. Extended her nose toward the carrier. Sniffed. Pulled back. Sniffed again. The older woman from earlier appeared again, this time with something else. I asked the cafe if they had any plain chicken, she said, offering a small container. Thought she might be hungry. Luna's nose twitched at the smell. First sign of appetite I'd seen. Elena took a small piece of chicken, held it near the carrier entrance. Luna stretched, just her neck, keeping her body firmly against Elena, and took the chicken gently. Chewed slowly. Swallowed. Good girl, Elena whispered. Such a good girl. They repeated the process 3 times. Each time, Luna stretched a little farther, committed a little more. On the 4th piece, she placed one paw inside the carrier, then pulled it back. No pressure, Elena said, voice steady now. Your choice. Another piece of chicken. Another cautious extension. This time Luna put both front paws in. Sniffed the memory foam bottom. Nosed at the small plush toy Elena had tucked in the corner. Then she looked back at Elena. The first time she'd made full eye contact. And something passed between them. Not understanding, exactly. But recognition. An acknowledgement that this person had fought for her. That the rules had bent. That maybe possibly this was different. Luna stepped fully into the carrier. Turned around once. Lay down. Her eyes stayed open this time. Watching. Wary. But present. Oh my God. Elena breathed. Oh my God, she did it. I felt my own eyes sting. 6 years of shelter volunteering. And I'd never stopped being amazed by how much courage it takes for a traumatized animal to choose trust again. The gate agent called for boarding. Susan Chin smiled at Elena. You're in group 2. I'll make sure you have extra time. Elena wiped her eyes. Thank you. I don't know how to. You don't need to thank me, Susan said. Just take good care of her. I will. Elena's voice was fierce. I swear I will. I helped Elena gather her things. The carrier fits under the wheelchair footrest easily. Luna stayed curled inside, breathing steadily now. Eyes tracking movement but no longer locked in that frozen, dissociated stare. She's going to be okay, I told Elena. This is a good sign. She's choosing to trust the space. Elena nodded, still crying softly. I already bought her a bed. An orthopedic one. For her hips. And I have her medication schedule set up. And I found a vet who specializes in senior dogs. And, she laughed wetly. I'm rambling. You're prepared, I corrected. She's lucky to have you. I'm the lucky one, Elena said quietly. They are called Group 2. Elena wheeled toward the gate. Luna's carrier secured carefully on her lap now. One hand resting on the mesh side so Luna could feel her presence. Luna looked up at her once. Just once. Then settled her head on her paws and closed her eyes. Not the braced, terrified closing from before. The closing of a dog who's decided, tentatively, to rest. Because sometimes the most radical thing a traumatized creature can do is let their guard down. Even if just for a moment. Even if just enough to believe that this time, finally, the goodbye isn't coming. The flight attendants were kind. That's the detail Elena would remember most when she told this story later. Not the conflict, not the policy battle, But the moment the lead flight attendant, a woman named Teresa, knelt beside her seat and said, "I saw what happened at the gate. I have a senior dog too. If you need anything, you can tell me." The man in the seat beside Elena, a middle-aged software engineer named Robert, had offered to switch seats so Elena could have the window, thinking it might give Luna more privacy. Elena had accepted gratefully. Luna stayed in her carrier for takeoff, tucked beneath the seat, visible through the mesh sides. Her breathing stayed steady. She didn't whimper or scratch. Just lay there, eyes half closed, processing. The older couple from the terminal was seated 3 rows back. The woman caught Elena's eye as passengers settled in and mouthed, "How is she?" Elena gave a thumbs up, eyes wet again. 30 minutes into the flight, Luna shifted in the carrier. Not anxiously, exploratively. Nosing at the mesh, testing the boundaries. "Do you think she needs to come out?" Robert asked quietly. "I don't know," Elena admitted. "I don't want to force anything." "May I?" Robert gestured toward the carrier. Elena nodded. Robert leaned down slightly. "Hey Luna," he said softly. "Are you doing okay in there?" Luna's ears perked. She looked at him. Really looked, with that evaluating gaze dogs use when deciding if someone's safe. "My dog was named Barney," Robert said. "Had him for 11 years. Lost him to cancer 2 summers ago." His voice caught. He was a terrible passenger. Hated flying. But he loved car rides. Used to stick his whole head out the window like he was trying to eat the wind. Luna's tail moved. Just once. A small, tentative sweep. "There she is," Robert said, smiling. "You're tougher than Barney was." Teresa, the flight attendant, stopped by with water. "How's our VIP passenger?" "Doing great," Elena said. "I think she's starting to relax." "Good." Teresa set down the water, then reached into her apron and pulled out a small packet. Technically these are for kids, but she offered a package of plain, unsalted crackers. In case she wants a snack. Elena's throat tightened. "You didn't have to." "I know," Teresa said. "But I wanted to." As the flight continued, something extraordinary happened. People started coming by. Not intrusively. Not all at once. But in that quiet, careful way strangers sometimes show solidarity when they've witnessed something that matters. The older woman from the terminal brought a bottle of water. "For you," she said to Elena. "Make sure you're staying hydrated too." A young couple seated across the aisle asked if they could see Luna. When Elena unzipped the carrier slightly so they could peek in, the woman started crying. "We're adopting a dog next month," she explained. "From a shelter in Seattle. It makes me so hopeful." A flight attendant from the back of the plane, someone who hadn't even witnessed the gate conflict, stopped by during her break. "I heard what happened," she said. "I volunteer at a rescue. You did a beautiful thing." "I didn't do anything," Elena said. "Other people fought for us." "You didn't give up," the woman corrected. "That's something." Even Robert, the software engineer, who'd started the flight as a stranger and would end it the same way, opened his laptop and showed Elena photos of Barney, a goofy-looking beagle mix with uneven ears and a smile that took up half his face. "He was a good boy," Robert said quietly. "Terrible breath, destroyed 2 couches, once ate an entire Thanksgiving turkey off the counter. But he was the best thing that ever happened to me." "I'm sorry you lost him," Elena said. "Me too. But getting to love him." Robert's voice was steady. "That was worth every second of the goodbye." Luna, curled in her carrier, had started to relax in small, visible ways. Her breathing had deepened. Her muscles had loosened. When Elena reached down to stroke her through the mesh, Luna leaned into the touch instead of tolerating it. "She trusts you," Robert observed. "She's trying to," Elena said. "We're both trying." An hour from landing, Elena unzipped the carrier fully and let Luna poke her head out. Not to leave, just to observe. Luna looked around the cabin with those cautious brown eyes, cataloging the strange environment, the unfamiliar sounds. A child 2 rows up saw her and gasped. "Mommy, there's a dog." The mother smiled. "I see her. She's beautiful. Can I pet her?" "Not right now, baby. She's being very brave, and we should let her have space." Luna's ears swiveled toward the child's voice, then back toward Elena, checking in, making sure. "I'm right here," Elena whispered. "I'm not going anywhere." Luna settled her chin on the edge of the carrier, half in, half out, bridging the space between safety and curiosity. It was the most hopeful thing Elena had seen in 2 years. When the plane landed, the captain made an announcement. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have a very special passenger on board today. A rescue dog named Luna traveling to her forever home. Let's give her a moment to disembark comfortably." The cabin erupted in applause. Not performative applause. The real kind. The kind that happens when humans witness resilience and want to honor it. Luna's ears flattened at the noise, too loud, too sudden, but Elena's hand was already there, steady on her head. "It's okay," Elena murmured. "They're happy for you. They're cheering for you." Luna looked up at her. And this time, finally, her tail wagged. Not tentatively. Not uncertainly. Fully. Genuinely. The tail of a dog who'd decided, against all her previous evidence, that maybe this was real. Elena's hands shook as she filled out the final adoption paperwork at the gate. Susan Chun had printed everything, highlighted the signature lines, explained each section with the patience of someone who understood that bureaucracy, in this moment, was the bridge between hoping and having. "This makes it official," Susan said, handing over the pen. "She's legally yours." Elena stared at the document. Luna's name printed in the official typeface. Her own name is listed under primary guardian. "I thought it was official when I signed at the shelter," Elena said. "That was the intent to adopt." "This," Susan tapped the paper. "This is proof of successful transport and final transfer of custody. Once you sign this, she's not a shelter dog anymore. She's your dog." Elena's vision blurred. She blinked hard, pressed the pen to paper, and signed her name. Patricia Holmes. The witness line. Susan Chun. The airline representative. And just like that, Luna belongs somewhere. Not to a shelter. Not to a system. To a person who'd fought past policy and feared to choose her. "Congratulations," Susan said warmly. "You're officially a dog mom." Elena looked down at Luna, who'd been resting with her head on Elena's lap for the past 10 minutes, eyes half closed, breathing steady. "Hey girl," Elena whispered. "You're mine now. Is that okay?" Luna's tail swept once across the floor. Elena started crying again. The relieved kind. The kind that comes when you realize you've been holding your breath for months and can finally exhale. Teresa, the flight attendant, appeared with a small gift bag. "From the crew," she said. "Welcome home present." Inside was a plush airplane toy, a small bag of premium dog treats, and a handwritten note. To Luna, "May all your future flights be peaceful, and may your new home be everything you deserve. The crew of Flight 1847". Elena pressed the note to her chest. "I don't know how to thank." "Live well," Teresa said simply. "Thank you. Live well and love her hard." The airport outside the gate was crowded with people reuniting, rushing, navigating. But for a moment, in that small pocket near the counter, everything slowed. Susan helped Elena gather her belongings. Robert, the software engineer, offered to carry Elena's bag to the rideshare pickup area. The older couple waved as they passed, the woman blowing a kiss toward Luna. "You'll want to take her to a vet within the week," I said, pulling out my phone. "I'm texting you the name of a colleague in Portland who specializes in senior dog care." Tell him Patricia Holmes referred you. He's the best. Elena nodded, memorizing every instruction like her life, Luna's life, depended on it. And the bed you mentioned? I continued. The orthopedic one? That's perfect for her hips. But also get some non-slip mats for your floors. Older dogs with arthritis can panic on slippery surfaces. Non-slip mats, Elena repeated, already adding it to her phone notes. What else? Patience, I said. She's going to have good days and hard days. There'll be moments when she regresses, when she gets scared for no reason you can identify, when she tests whether you're really staying. That's normal. That's trauma healing. Don't take it personally. I won't, Elena promised. And the supplements you mentioned? Glucosamine, omega-3s, maybe some CBD oil for anxiety if your vet approves. Keep her on a consistent schedule. Same feeding times, same walk times, same bedtime routine. Predictability rebuilds trust faster than anything else. Elena was writing everything down with shaking hands. Predictability. Routine. Patience. She's going to surprise you, I added. Dogs are resilient in ways humans aren't. Give her 6 months. She won't be the same dog. Better? Elena asked hopefully. Herself? I corrected. Right now she's Luna in survival mode. Give her safety, and you'll meet Lunash actually is. That's the dog worth waiting for. Luna had been watching this entire exchange with increasing alertness. Her ears were up. Her eyes were clear. She'd shifted from passive recipient to active observer. A small but significant change. When Elena stood to leave, wheeling toward the exit with Luna's carrier balanced carefully on her lap, and her emotional support human, Robert, pushing her suitcase, Luna didn't freeze. She looked around with curiosity instead of fear. The automatic door slid open. Cold November air rushed in. Portland rain misted against the pavement. Elena paused at the threshold, taking a breath. Ready? She asked Luna. Luna looked at her. Then at the world beyond the doors. Then back at Elena. And in that moment of choice, stay or go, trust or retreat, Luna made a decision that would define everything that came next. She leaned forward in the carrier. Toward the doors. Toward the unknown. Toward home. Not pulling away. Not bracing. Choosing. Okay then, Elena whispered, voice breaking with joy. Let's go home. They crossed the threshold together. And behind them, in the terminal, I stood watching until they disappeared into the rain-soaked pickup area. Feeling the particular ache that comes from witnessing transformation you helped make possible, but won't get to see complete. Susan Chin appeared beside me. You think she'll be okay? Luna. I smiled. She'll be more than okay. She'll be loved. And that's the thing that heals everything else. Susan nodded. Then, after a pause, I bent a lot of rules today. Yeah, I agreed. You did. Worth it. I thought about Luna's closed eyes at the gate. The frozen stillness. The look of a dog who'd given up. And then I thought about that tail wag on the plane. They leaned toward the door. The choice to trust again. Every single rule, I said. Susan smiled. Good. Because I'd do it again. She walked back to her gate, posture straight, ready to enforce the next policy, help the next passenger, maintain the next system. But she'd also learned something today. That sometimes the most important thing we can do is know when to break our own rules. When to choose the person over the policy. When to risk the exception. Because institutions don't have hearts. But the people who run them do. And every so often, that makes all the difference. Stories like this one, where ordinary people make extraordinary choices. These are the stories that need to be told. If you believe in celebrating the humans who bend rules for the right reasons, subscribe to this channel. Share this video with someone who needs a reminder that compassion still exists. And leave a comment. Have you ever witnessed someone break the rules to do the right thing? I want to hear your story. Elena's apartment was small. One bedroom, modified for accessibility, with wide doorways and grab bars, and the kind of careful organization that comes from learning to navigate the world from a seated position. She prepared for Luna's arrival the way someone prepares for a life event. Not casually, but with the weight of understanding that this decision would alter everything. The orthopedic dog bed sat in the living room corner, positioned near the couch so Luna could be close without being underfoot. Memory foam, washable cover, size medium. Elena had agonized over the purchase for 3 days before clicking buy, wondering if she was being presumptuous, if Luna would even make it home, if hope was worth the financial commitment. Now looking at that empty bed, Elena felt the full weight of possibility. Luna would sleep there tonight. Not in a concrete kennel. Not on a thin mat that smelled like disinfectant and dozens of other dogs. On a bed that belonged to her, in a home that would become hers, with a person who'd chosen her. Robert helped carry Elena's bags inside, declined the offer of coffee, squeezed her shoulder once, and left with the quiet grace of strangers who've shared an important moment and know not to overstay it. Elena locked the door, turned around, looked at Luna's carrier sitting in the middle of the living room. "Okay," she said aloud. "This is it. This is home." She wheeled closer, unzipped the carrier slowly. Luna didn't bolt out, didn't rush to explore. She emerged the way trauma survivors enter new spaces, cautiously, testing each step, ready to retreat if necessary. Her nose worked overtime, cataloging scents. Furniture polish. Coffee. The faint smell of Elena's lavender body wash. The ghost of the previous tenant's cooking. Nothing familiar. Nothing dangerous. Luna's eyes scanned the room, landing on the dog bed. She approached it slowly, sniffed the fabric, pawed at it once, then looked back at Elena. Permission-seeking. Uncertain. "It's yours," Elena said. "You can use it whenever you want. No one's going to take it away." Luna circled the bed once, twice, then settled onto it with the careful movements of a dog whose hips hurt, but who's too proud or too conditioned to show pain. She tucked her nose under her tail, exhaled, didn't close her eyes, not yet, but let her body sink into the memory foam like she was testing whether comfort was a trick or a promise. Elena watched her for 5 full minutes without moving, terrified that any sound might shatter the fragile peace. Then she wheeled to the kitchen, pulled out the pill organizer she'd filled days ago, and checked the labels. Glucosamine, omega-3, pain management. Luna's medications, prescribed by the shelter vet, organized by day and time like this had always been inevitable. She filled a ceramic bowl with water. Heavy non-slip bottom. Purchased specifically so it wouldn't slide across the floor and startle a nervous dog. Set it down near the bed. Luna's ears perked. She watched Elena's movements but didn't approach. "I know you're probably not thirsty yet," Elena said. "But it's here when you want it. Everything you need is here." She rolled back to the couch, careful to give Luna space, and pulled out her phone. The vet appointment was already scheduled. Dr. Marcus Chun, the specialist Patricia Holmes had recommended, had fit Luna in for Friday morning. 3 days away. Enough time for Luna to settle, but not so much that any urgent medical needs would go unaddressed. Elena also had a list, compiled over the past week in frantic preparation, of everything Luna might need. Orthopedic bed purchased. Food/water bowls purchased. High-quality senior dog food arriving tomorrow. Joint supplements already organized. Non-slip floor mats ordered arriving Thursday. Calming aids, pheromone diffuser, anxiety wrap, CBD treats pending vet approval. Gentle leash and harness arriving Wednesday. Puzzle toys for mental stimulation, researching best options. Grooming appointment scheduled for next week. Looking at that list, Elena felt simultaneously prepared and utterly overwhelmed. What if she missed something? What if Luna needed things she hadn't anticipated? What if her best wasn't enough? Luna shifted on the bed, adjusting her position. This time, she closed her eyes. Not the braced, self-protective closing from the airport. The soft, gradual closing of a creature who's decided, tentatively, uncertainly, to rest. Elena's chest tightened with something too big to name. She pulled out her laptop, navigated to the shelter's website, and found Luna's old profile photo. That sad, resigned expression. The flattened ears. The look of a dog who'd stopped hoping. Then she raised her phone and took a photo of Luna now. Curled on the memory foam bed, body relaxed, breathing steady. Not the same dog. Or rather, the same dog but without survival mode activating every cell. Elena didn't post the photo publicly. Didn't caption it with inspiration porn platitudes about rescue. Just save it in a folder titled Luna's First Day. And let herself cry the way you cry when something you've desperately wanted finally, impossibly, happens. The first night was quiet. Elena had read enough about shelter dog adjustment to know that the first 72 hours were critical. Some dogs shut down. Some became destructive. Some regressed to behaviors they'd needed to survive, but no longer served them. Luna did none of those things. She explored the apartment slowly, room by room, nose cataloging every corner. She found the bedroom, looked at Elena's bed, then returned to her own in the living room, choosing familiar over comfortable, routine over risk. She drank from the water bowl twice. At 7 p.m., Elena opened the bag of kibble, premium brand, formulated for senior dogs, exactly what the shelter had been feeding her to avoid digestive upset from sudden diet changes. She measured out the recommended portion, added a splash of warm water to soften it for Luna's teeth, and set it down. Luna proust cautiously. Sniffed. Took one piece. Chewed slowly. Then another. Not the ravenous eating of a starved dog. The careful eating of a dog who's testing whether food will keep appearing, or if this is the last chance. Elena didn't hover. Didn't watch too intently. Just sat on the couch with her laptop, pretending to work while every part of her awareness tracked Luna's movements. By 8 p.m., Luna had finished half the bowl. Had walked to Elena's side and sat down next to the wheelchair. Hadn't asked for anything. Just existed there. You okay? Elena asked softly. Luna looked up at her. Then leaned, just slightly, against Elena's leg. It was the same gesture from the airport terminal. The same choice Luna had made in the shelter yard when they'd first met. Not demanding. Not desperate. Just a present. Elena's hand found Luna's head, stroking gently. I meant what I said, you know. I'm not going anywhere. This is permanent. You're stuck with me. Luna's tail moved. Twice. And I already ordered you a new toy, Elena continued, voice thick. It's supposed to arrive tomorrow. Some kind of puzzle feeder thing. Patricia said mental stimulation helps with anxiety. Also, there's a dog park 3 blocks away. I don't know if you like other dogs, but we can find out. And I found a pet store that does grooming for nervous dogs. No pressure, but when you're ready, we can get you a nice bath and maybe a trim. You've got some mats in your coat that probably hurt. Luna's eyes had closed again, but her body stayed pressed against Elena's leg, anchored there. I bought calming treats too, Elena whispered. Peanut butter flavored. And the vet said we could try CBD oil if you seem anxious. And I got this thing called a thunder shirt. It's basically a pressure vest that's supposed to help dogs feel safe. I don't know if you'll like it, but we'll try. We'll try everything until we figure out what helps. She was rambling. She knew she was rambling. But Luna didn't seem to mind. I was so scared, Elena admitted. At the airport. When they said no. I thought I was going to lose you before I even got to keep you. And I know that sounds selfish, because you were the one in danger, But I needed you to make it home. I needed to know that wanting something could actually work out. Luna's breathing had deepened. She was falling asleep sitting up, leaned against Elena's leg, trusting that this position was safe enough to lower her guard. "You're home now," Elena whispered. "You're really actually home." At 10 p.m., Elena prepared for bed. She brushed her teeth, changed into pajamas, transferred from wheelchair to bed with the practiced efficiency of someone who'd relearned their own body. Luna watched from the living room, head raised, tracking Elena's movements. "I'm just going to sleep," Elena called out. "You can stay out here, or you can come in. Your choice. No pressure." She turned off the lights, leaving just the bathroom night light on in case Luna needed to navigate in the dark. Settled under the covers, closed her eyes, and waited. 5 minutes passed, then 10. She heard Luna stand, heard the soft click of nails on hardwood, heard the slight wheeze of an older dog moving through space, then felt the weight as Luna settled on the floor beside the bed. Not on the bed. That would be too much, too soon. But close enough that if Elena reached down, she could touch Luna's head. Elena's hand found its way over the edge of the mattress. Found soft fur. Warm breath. "Good night, Luna," she whispered. Luna sighed, the kind of sigh that releases tension held for months. And for the first time in 11 weeks, neither of them slept with the fear that morning would bring another ending. Because this wasn't temporary. This wasn't conditional. This was the beginning of permanent. 3 weeks later, Elena sat in Dr. Chen's veterinary office with Luna curled in her lap, waiting for the exam results. Luna's transformation had been gradual. Not dramatic, not sudden, but steady in the way true healing always is. The first week, she'd stayed close to Elena's side, rarely venturing more than a few feet away, startling at loud noises, retreating to her bed whenever uncertainty crept in. The second week, she'd started exploring more independently, sniffing the windows, investigating the coat closet, claiming the sunny spot near the sliding glass door as her afternoon nap location. By week 3, Luna had learned the routine. Morning, medication with breakfast, glucosamine, fish oil, pain management. Mid-morning, short walk around the block, weather permitting. Afternoon, rest on the orthopedic bed or the sunny spot. Evening, dinner, puzzle toy, quiet time with Elena. Night, sleep on the floor beside Elena's bed, occasionally venturing onto the foot of the bed when she thought Elena wasn't paying attention. The anxiety wrap had helped during a thunderstorm. The CBD treats had taken the edge off when construction noise started next door. The puzzle feeder kept Luna's mind engaged when Elena worked from home. But the thing that helped most was consistency. Same schedule. Same person. Same space. Every single day. Dr. Chen emerged from the back room with Luna's chart and a smile. "Her labs look great," he said. "Liver function, kidney function, blood count, all within normal range for her age. The arthritis is manageable with her current medication, though we might adjust the dosage as winter gets colder." "And her weight?" Elena asked. "Up 4 pounds since intake." "That's exactly what we want to see. She's filling out, building muscle. The supplements are working." Elena exhaled relief. "And mentally? I know you can't really test for that, but she's come a long way," Dr. Chen said gently. "When Patricia called to refer you, she mentioned Luna was in pretty severe shutdown. I've been watching her behavior today. She's alert, curious, and responsive. Her stress signals are minimal. That tells me she feels safe. She does the cutest thing now," Elena said, smiling. "When I'm working at my desk, she brings me her puzzle toy and drops it at my feet. Like she's checking in, making sure I'm still there." "That's attachment," Dr. Chen explained. "Healthy attachment. She's bonding." Elena's eyes filled. "I didn't know if she would. She'd been through so much." Dogs are remarkably resilient, Dr. Chen said. Especially when given what Luna's been given. Safety, routine medical care, patience. You're doing everything right. I'm terrified I'm going to mess it up. You won't. Dr. Chen's voice was firm. You know how I know? Because you're asking the questions. You're paying attention. You're showing up every single day. That's what dogs need. Not perfection. Presence. Luna, who'd been sitting quietly during this conversation, suddenly stood and walked to the door, then back to Elena, then to the door again. She needs to go out, Elena said, recognizing the signal Luna had developed. Then let's wrap up, Dr. Chen said. I'll see you both in 3 months, unless something comes up before then. Keep doing what you're doing. Outside, Luna sniffed the grass, did her business, then sat down and looked at Elena with what could only be described as contentment. Not happiness. Not excitement. Just okayness. The state of being fine with where she was and who she was with. Elena took a photo, the kind she'd been taking every few days, building a visual timeline of Luna's transformation. Later, she'd scroll through those photos and marvel at the difference. Week 1. Luna tense, eyes wide, body coiled. Week 2. Luna relaxed but watchful, testing boundaries. Week 3. Luna loose, sprawled in sunbeams, belly exposed in sleep. That night, Elena updated her journal, a practice her therapist had recommended to process the past 2 years of grief and rebuilding. November 30th. Luna has been home for 3 weeks. I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop, for something to go wrong, for her to decide I'm not enough. But she's still here. Every morning, she's still here. Dr. Chen says her labs are good. She's gained weight. Her coat is shinier. She doesn't flinch at sudden movements anymore. Yesterday she played. Actually played. I rolled a tennis ball across the living room, not expecting anything, and she chased it. I brought it back, dropped it at my feet and waited. I cried. I've cried so much these past weeks. Happy tears mostly. Relieved tears. The kind that come when you realize you've been holding your breath and can finally exhale. Michael would have loved her. He always wanted an older dog. Puppies are great, he used to say, but senior dogs know who they are. There's wisdom in that. I think Luna is teaching me wisdom, teaching me that broken things can heal, that love doesn't require perfection, that showing up consistently is the most powerful thing we can offer. She's sleeping at the foot of my bed right now, snoring softly, trusting that morning will come and I'll still be here. And I will be. Every morning. For as long as she needs me. Elena closed the journal, turned off the light, and reached down to rest her hand on Luna's back. Good night, girl, she whispered. Luna's tail thumped once against the blanket. And in the quiet dark of that small apartment, 2 beings who'd both survived loss learned what it meant to build something new from the wreckage. Not by erasing what came before, but by choosing, every day, to stay. I think about Luna sometimes. Not every day, but often enough. I wonder if she ever has nightmares about the shelter. If she remembers the airport confrontation. If trauma leaves permanent marks, or if love can actually rewrite the story. 6 months after that day at the terminal, I received an email from Elena. The subject line read, "Thank you." Inside was a photo. Luna, sprawled in a sun patch on a porch, surrounded by toys, a plush bed visible in the background. Her eyes were soft. Her body is loose. She looked like a dog who'd never known a hard day. But I knew better. She'd known plenty of hard days. She'd just learned that hard days don't last forever. The email said, "Patricia, I don't know if you remember me. We met at the airport last March. You helped save Luna's life. I wanted you to know, she's thriving. She's my shadow, my anchor, my reminder that second chances are real. Thank you for not walking past. Thank you for believing she was worth fighting for. Elena." I printed that email, pinned it to my office wall. Because I volunteer at Riverside Regional Shelter every Tuesday, and some weeks are harder than others. Some weeks I watch good dogs get overlooked. Some weeks I hold dogs in their final moments when no one else will. But that photo of Luna, thriving, loved home, reminds me why I keep showing up. Transformation doesn't always look like rescue. Sometimes it looks like an airport confrontation, a bureaucratic loophole, a gate agent who chose mercy over policy. Sometimes it looks like a woman in a wheelchair deciding to love again despite every reason not to. Sometimes it looks like a shelter dog learning, slowly and cautiously, that stillness isn't the only way to survive. And sometimes, just sometimes, it looks like a tail wagging on an airplane, a dog choosing trust, and two broken beings building something whole together. Some miracles are loud, but the most powerful ones are quiet. The ones that happen in the space between giving up and holding on. The ones that teach us that transformation isn't about becoming someone new. It's about becoming safe enough to be who you always were. Luna is home. And that, in the end, is the only miracle that matters. Luna's story is one of thousands happening every single day in shelters across the country. Senior dogs waiting. Overlooked dogs hoping. Broken dogs healing. If this story moved you, subscribe so you never miss another one. Every subscriber helps this channel reach more people who might choose to adopt the dog everyone else walks past. Click subscribe. Share this video. And if you're ready, go meet your Luna. She's waiting for you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for caring. And thank you for believing that every dog, no matter how old, how scared, or how overlooked, deserves a soft place to land.